Leave a comment below and let me know who you tipped. Have a look at my tips here. Let's compare, and I'm sure a lot of you are doing better than me. Let me know who you've tipped and by how many. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Last week, I think I did okay. 4 out of 9 tips. I didn't get the Bulldogs. I picked Lions, as I'm assuming most people did. I did get Collingwood, which was pretty good. Chose North over Hawks. Yeah, it was probably 50-50 anyway, but got Carlton, picked St Kilda over Essendon. I think they were favourites. For some reason, I picked Port over my Adelaide Crows. I don't know what I was thinking there. I'm assuming most people would have picked Geelong over Gold Coast here, so that's unfortunate. I picked the Swans. I thought they were a really good team. I mean, Melbourne covered them pretty much everywhere over the ground. Sydney Swans still put up a pretty decent score. A lot of that came late. I think Melbourne are just a much better team, especially at home. And of course, Fremantle beat West Coast after West Coast had a lot of injuries, which I think will cause a lot of issues this week in round 4. So we'll go to round 4. So my first tip, what I'm thinking, is Brisbane Lions at home. I'll have to double check the facts, but I think they've won, it's 20-something out of the last 25 games they've won at the Gabba. They have been a very strong team at home. Collingwood have no ruck, so Oscar McInerney is going to have a big week, I reckon. So for that, I reckon they're going to win by probably be less than 25. Collingwood are a very strong team. They look the ones to beat this year so far. Brisbane Lions have been very disappointing for me, but I still think they get the job done at home. I think they'll win by 15 points. The next one, Marvel Stadium. North Melbourne definitely could win this one. They've been playing pretty good footy, actually. Hopefully LDU is back, but I think Carlton are just too strong of a team overall. I think they will get the job done by probably about 20 points. Now, Bub Games, finally, we've got an interesting match. Bub Games versus Holding the Ball AFL. Let's go. I reckon Adelaide, from what they showed last week, I know they're probably going to be pretty sore, and it was against Port. Obviously, there's that rivalry there. I think Adelaide were way too strong, and I think Adelaide are going to also beat Freo at home. They don't have to travel. I think they beat Freo by about 12 points. Next, I'm going to pick Richmond. I think they are a pretty strong team. Western Bulldogs, they did get the win last week, but I thought it was pretty lackluster. Still a lot of skill errors and Aaron Norton kicking at goals. If you saw the oddities, it was very strange. I think Richmond are just a better team overall. I know they've got 1 draw, 1 win, 1 loss, but I think overall they're a better, stronger team. Got a few things to work on like every other team, but Richmond win by about 20. I think this is a game that could go either way. St Kilda versus Gold Coast. Probably, if this was last year, I don't think you get anyone watching this, but St Kilda are 3-0, which is quite interesting. Gold Coast are 1 win, 2 losses. I think Gold Coast will put up a bit of a fight against St Kilda. They played pretty well last week, Gold Coast. St Kilda obviously have a lot of injuries at the moment, but they're still playing really well, which is great to see. I think at Marvel Stadium, which is typically a high-scoring oval, I don't think Gold Coast can keep up, so I'm going to pick Saints. I think the Saints win this one by about 20 as well. Last week's performance by Port Adelaide was shocking, to say the least. They probably should have beaten the Crows at many opportunities. They just dropped the mark, sloppy tackles, giving away frees. Adelaide just seemed like they wanted it more. Sydney Swans, they lost against Melbourne, but that's obviously a very good team. Port Adelaide losing to Crows, who aren't going to be a good team, who most likely will not make the 8. I think Sydney Swans should win this one by about 30. Moving on to Sunday's game, Essendon versus GWS. I think this could go either way. I think GWS have a few injuries. Essendon, they just let Saints get out too quick. I think if they held them in a little bit, I think at one point they were almost 30 points down in the first quarter when they didn't score anything. Saints were just piling on the points. Essendon came back a fair bit, which was good to see, but too little too late. And I think Saints just ran away with the game, but there seems to be a little bit to like about Essendon. They seem to be moving the ball a little bit quicker. If Mason Redman doesn't give away 2 50-metre penalties in the first quarter, I think Essendon will win by about 10 points. Now, this is the game not to watch unless you like absolute floggings. West Coast Eagles, as you know, last week had a huge amount of injuries. I just don't see how they can even put a proper side together. I think they're going to get absolutely thumped by Melbourne, who will be looking to increase their percentage. And after this, they should be in the top 4 most likely. I think Melbourne are going to win by probably about 55 points. And lastly, the Battle of the Wooden Spooners. Who would have thought that Geelong would go 0-3 after winning a premiership? Hawthorn, we definitely expected to be down the bottom. We didn't expect the reigning premiers to be below them, which is very weird. But I think Geelong finally get their first win at home at the the second home, MCG. And I think Geelong should win this by about 20 points as well. And that's pretty much it. Hopefully you like the new graphic down below. I'll try to do that every week. Just looks a little bit cleaner. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will